Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Mike and Bradley sports scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18 and on WAT simulcast on WAT AM 1110 Pikeville, Tennessee. My name is Mike Smith, and this is, of course, again, Bradley Hargis, my co-host. And, of course, we're going to discuss a number of subjects such as the high school football scene, college football, college basketball, pro football, and just various other subjects of interest in our next hour. First up, we're going to have the high school football scene, and then, of course, is the playoff scene. And, of course, Bledsoe County is in the second round after basically a pretty much decisive 42-21 win over South Green last Friday at James T. Wharton Field. And, of course, now they go up to Hampton, which is a long drive. That's up in the upper East Tennessee. That's around Johnson City.
I was so hoping that you would use the phrase possum walk. And I think you
don't
thought about
use
it,
that
but you
word.
didn't come out. But yeah, it's.
I don't use that word because it doesn't exist.
Hampton is just about 20 miles south of Elizabeth and past Johnson City. So
that's about close to the Virginia line, North Carolina.
It's going to be a haul.
And of course, the team is going to be leaving Friday morning about around 9:45. They're going to do a tour around the middle school and the elementary school, and then we'll be going through town. So if you are in town, wave them goodbye and wish them luck, as Bledsoe County hoping to do something it has never done before and advance to the third round. If that happens, Bledsoe will be back home the next Friday night, either against Oneida or York, winner of that game. So hopefully Bledsoe County will come across as that game, as Bledsoe hopefully will get a win against Hampton on Friday night. That's the first ever meeting between these two teams, Hampton and Bledsoe County, the Hampton Bulldogs. They're also 9-2, by the way, as are the Warriors of Bledsoe County. Bradley, last Friday's game between South Green was an interesting game. Basically is that, Bledsoe wore them down.
Yeah, I mean, it started out, looked like it was going to be all Bledsoe, and then next thing you know, South Green is back in it, and then you turn around again and Bledsoe's running away with it. I mean, yeah, it was just one of those games where they kept pushing, kept pounding, and South Green, if you were there at the game and you follow, high school football, South Green is a pretty good football team. Hampton is a pretty decent football team, but again, Hampton and South Green are very, very evenly matched. I mean, that was, of course, Hampton did, score 30 some odd points against them to secure the Region 1 first place. Yeah. But they're a good team, and we went in there and played them, hit them in the mouth, and played really hard, and didn't make that many mistakes, and that's huge for a team at this point. I mean, basically the playoffs is a brand new season. You're starting off. Yes, you have seeding and you're playing different people, but the playoffs is a brand new season. So right now Bledsoe's 1-0. Bledsoe is 1-0 in that. They won the first round. We're going to play Hampton Friday night, and I hope we get up there early enough that the boys can get the jet lag worked out, because that's traveling for 3 plus 3.5 hours, 4 hours.
They're going to do it on charter buses. So they're not going to do it on school buses, on charter buses.
Well, even with that long drive, it's really hard sometimes to bounce back from that. I mean, you can ask Oneida. I think that really changed a little bit of them. It wore them out a lot.
I think South Green also came in on school bus.
South Green the same way. They had to travel from Greene County, which is up there again around Johnson City and Carter County, where Hampton is. So it's going to be a good game, and I will be. I mean, I'm going in like most people, Bledsoe County. I'm going in thinking Bledsoe County is going to win the ball game. Obviously, we want that to happen. But it's going to be close, and the only thing that will absolutely, utterly shock me is if Hampton beats us by more than 3 touchdowns.
I would consider that to be unlikely. Remember a few years ago when we played what was the team that we played 3 years ago in the playoffs, second round at Pikeville? Trying to remember it.
Not East Robertson.
No, not East Robertson. Starts with a T. I forgot. Well, anyway.
Trousdale
County. They came down there and they were a mirror image of us. Mm-hmm. And they won only because the last second pass that we threw was incomplete. Mm-hmm. Because they beat us 14-7. That's how close it was. And we had one of the best teams in the state that year at 11-0. Bledsoe County, of course, this year you started in September. They were 2-2, and people wonder, well, are they even going to make the playoffs?
Mm-hmm.
And it was you lost to York, you lost to Sequatchie, both good teams, and you barely got past Cumberland County in overtime, and you won pretty well over Sale Creek. But then again, suddenly it's like in the third quarter against Wartburg, it was 21-20. Someone hit that switch and it just snapped on, and for the rest of the season, Bledsoe was just about unstoppable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they found the groove at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would like to find it a little early. That's why you typically don't play your arch rivals at the very beginning of the season, because I mean, Sequatchie County, good team. They're in the playoffs. They're playing again this Friday as well.
Playing Meigs County,
at Meigs. So,
yeah.
But if you take the Bledsoe County team that we have now and go back and have this team at the very beginning of the season, and it is very plausible that we could be a 10-0 team.
11-0. We could 11-0.
Well, 11-0
Yeah.
in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very, very possible that could be the case, because we were off. We didn't really have everything gelled together in Sequatchie County, and Sequatchie did get some good breaks as far as the offense is concerned, and we didn't. And that's just the way the ball goes sometimes. And the same thing with York. Bledsoe County, even though we played York here, it was a struggle. They were trying to establish ourselves. Well, are we going to be a running team? Or going to be a passing team? Or our defense had not stepped up to the level that it's stepped up to now.
Yeah. So
So it was harder for us to accommodate York's offense and find a hole in their defense.
That's right.
But now, I've wanted all season for Bledsoe County to win the first round,
right,
win the second round,
and get to the
get to the third round, and if they play York, they'll be playing at York.
they're going to be playing here, because this is one of these odd years where we end up being the host role for the third round. So, but let's understand something here. You look at all the opponents that York has played in the region. We're the only one that has kept them close.
Mm-hmm.
All the others, they shut out Oneida. They hammered Tellico. They just battered Polk.
They scored 70 points on Tellico.
Yeah, that tells you right there. That tells you what it is. That would be a matchup. Now, you listen to Coach Tabor when we had him here a few weeks ago. He said he would like to have a matchup with York. And I think that could happen. But like I said, this is going to be a game that's going to be about you're going to go 4 hours into hostile territory. Obviously, Bledsoe County is going to go in there. They're going to try to get a little acclimated, get there a little bit early, get a little bit acclimated, because it's a little higher elevation, I believe. Hampton is, and so that's going to be somewhat of a difference maker. And also, there's going to be some weather concerns. There's supposed to be a chance of light rain and slightly chilly temperature. So bring your blankets, bring your jackets, bring your
granny blankets. Well, the referee told us last week when he was down here, they were out of Knoxville.
Yeah.
And he did tell us that it's always cold in Hampton. Don't know how true that is. Never been there, but I'd rather dress with more than 1 or 2 layers, and you take those off if you get hot. But then go up there with 1 layer and freeze to death. So, but I'd mentioned the possibility of us getting some kind of little blind or little tent or something to sit under, maybe at one end of the field. But Mike didn't want to do that. I was going to bring in the walls to go around the tent, put a little heater in there, but he wanted to sit out in the cold.
Oh, I did not. You did. Oh, gee. Listen to you, Bradley, and you're a preacher. And you're a preacher, and you just violate your oath as a preacher. I saying that.
Hey, we ain't talking about preaching. We're talking about football. Yeah, you wanted to sit out in the cold with the fans, because from what I understand, Hampton does not have a press box. They have a awning that you climb up on, and the coaches and things get on top. But they don't have of course, they don't have a press box like we do. That from what I have seen and understand.
But if they have a press box, we're going in it.
If they have a press box, then we're going to be with our fans, with our people. Because that's what you wanted to do. So I'm going to hold you to it.
You wanted. You do this to me every time. You did this to me at East Robertson last year, and I really froze to death. Now
Did you though?
Yes.
No, you didn't.
I nearly
Look,
froze to
he's
death.
right here in the flesh, right in front of us. He's fine. It'd make you tough, Mike. It'd make you tough.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the game is 6:00. This will be on WAT, 6 o'clock local time, 7 o'clock Eastern time. That's Hampton's. That's in the time zone that Hampton is. That's why you may sound like a little bit ridiculous, but anyway, it'll be 6 o'clock local time. They're gonna let the schools out at 11:30 to give a send off to the players, and we encourage all the fans to go to Hampton and basically show what great support Bledsoe has. I mean, it's 4 hours. I mean, it's about 300 miles or whatever to get there. And
ideal situation is, again, and I'm not taking anything away from Hampton or South Green or Region 1. They've got, competition there. They have good teams. I mean, they're 9-2. The record says, speaks for itself.
Yeah.
But you look down at the quality of opponents, quality of strength of schedule for both teams. Same thing we ran into last week with South Green.
Yeah.
The strength of schedule is just not the same.
No.
The strength of the points for, points against is just not the same. It's just not. I mean, and I'm not saying that Region 1 is weak. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that the further west you go in the state of Tennessee, specifically in Region 2A or in the 2A bracket, the further west you go, the harder the competition gets.
That's right.
So that's kind of how the state is laid out, and it's no fault of anybody else. So ideally that Bledsoe goes up there, and the dream scenario is Bledsoe, scores 40 points and they score 6, and we get to run the clock out for the last 2 quarters, so we can get home a little quicker. Because as it sits right now, we're probably going to get home about midnight or later. Because the game starts at 6, 2.5, 3 hours for the game, and then plus the 3.5 to 4 hour drive back home. So hopefully Bledsoe does what they got to do. Does what they should do.
I want to thank McDonald's, the place I work at, for allowing me to have the Saturday off to rest up after that.
Well, who do I need to talk to tell them you have to work on Friday night?
Yeah, I doubt that's going to happen. They got plenty of people on Friday night. They got enough crazy people working on Friday night there to basically do the job. And anyway, I'm more needed on daytime. I'm sorry, Bradley, but that's the way it is. But anyway, I want to thank McDonald's, Pikeville, the boss Shay up there for allowing me to have that Saturday off to rest up from the.
Maybe there's still hope for me to talk her into making you work till 4.
I'm sure you would, but the problem is the game starts at 6 now. Unless I've got an aircraft.
Oh, that's fine with me. I mean,
yeah, that's fine with you because you'll be there and I'll get there by the time the game will be over.
My back,
I'm sure there's no skin off your back, but anyway, it's 6 o'clock Central Time. That's when the game will begin. So you need to get up there and try to get up there in plenty of time. What you do is get on Interstate 40 to Knoxville, then hit up 81, and then and near Johnson City, you get on Interstate 26 to Elizabethton, and then to follow the signs to Hampton from that point on. So basically, that's the direction.
If you don't see any Hampton signs, follow the Roan Mountain signs.
Anyway,
because Roan Mountain is just south of Hampton, so you've got to go through Hampton to get there.
So Roan Mountain State Park is nearby, so that's probably a pretty good where you can beat another time. Now, if Bledsoe wins, they will face off against the winner of York Oneida, and that will be, I believe, I'm going to check in to make sure, but I think he is here at home next Friday night. So if we win Friday night and get York, I will guarantee you that stadium will be packed with Warrior fans.
If we may do play York if we win the night, Friday night, and York wins, we're playing at home. But usually, if they're in the same region or same district, which is we and York are, it's based on seeding.
Yeah.
If you play someone outside of your region or district, which would be Hampton or something like that, in the third round and on, it's based on even or odd.
Yeah.
Depending on what region they are.
Because Oneida won over their opponent, the number 2 opponent. They ended up playing York out of the same region. Now, of course, this is an odd year, so basically we would host the third round. Otherwise, it would be an interesting rematch, and we'd be interested to see how that would go up against.
Either way, play here at home, that'd be great. If play at York, they got a nice press box. It would be it's a win-win.
Well, the only problem about that nice press box is that it's hermetically sealed, and therefore one cannot hear the crowd noise. That's about the only thing about that. Now, if it comes down to it, we could conceivably play Marion County. deeper into the
Hey, if Bledsoe keeps playing the way they're playing, there should be no reason why we should not advance. And I'm not saying that to build everybody up and get the hopes up, but as a football fan, even though I am a diehard Bledsoe County fan, I'm also a realist. I hope for the best, but I'm a realist. Bledsoe County is playing good football right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they finally found an identity. The wealth of running backs in the backfield. The defense has, by and large, been my biggest impression on them, especially in the last 6 games. Their defense has absolutely come alive. They get after them. We do struggle a little bit with the deep ball, but the running, the rushing attack, it's hard to get through the first line. Our defensive line is outstanding. It's doing a great job. Linebacker crew is doing a great job coming up and cleaning it up. It has been a pleasure to watch them on both sides of the football. But and right now, given the fact that they are hot, given the fact that they are being very successful right now, it's huge, because usually when it comes to playoff time, it doesn't really matter if we're 5-5 in the season or whatever. It reminds it matters if you are who's the hottest team going in the playoffs. Same thing with baseball, same thing with football, same thing with basketball. What team is performing and has the momentum?
Absolutely.
Right now, Bledsoe does.
Bledsoe is probably right now playing about as good as any team in the state right now, and obviously,
especially east of Nashville.
Actually, really, because the tough schedules that Bledsoe always schedules it out this year. Of course, you had Whitwell, which was 6-0. Their weaknesses were exposed, and the opponents probably got a good kick out of that and seen the game film on that. You had Whitwell, then you had Oneida came in here, and for some reason Oneida just did not play up to its potential, because they shut out their next opponent after they lost to us, so they had capability. So a lot of things happen. Again, the game is 6 o'clock Friday night. Well, if you don't make the game, you can listen to it on WATA AM 1110 with our pregame at 5:40 p.m. Now this will be 6 o'clock, not 7 o'clock our usual time, because of the time differential. They are Hampton is in the Eastern time zone. Bledsoe is in the. Well, let's look at Hampton. Last week, Polk County got on them early and led them at halftime, 19-14. Yeah. They had to come back in the second half. Now, if Bledsoe gets a big enough lead in the first half, can they come back on us?
Well, Bledsoe's a lot tougher than Polk. I mean, of course, same thing happened with South Green. South Green led Hampton at halftime, or close to halftime, and then the second half just blew up in Hampton's favor. So Hampton is a second half team, have been all year. So Bledsoe would do well to really put on the gas in the first 2 quarters. And again, with our defense, the way it's been playing, it's going to be hard for Hampton to come back of a deficit if they dig themselves in a hole, because Polk County and South Green are not Bledsoe.
No, they're not.
And I mean, we of course, judging by record, we beat Polk County pretty handily. We beat South Green pretty handily, and Hampton struggled with both those teams. So again, I'm not saying that it's going to be a cakewalk, but if Bledsoe County does what they're supposed to do, they should come out of Hampton, Tennessee with a win Friday night.
Absolutely. Okay, when we go to a break here, and in our next segment, we're going to talk about college football, the upcoming games in the Southeastern Conference and the nation, and basically what does that mean for the college football playoffs. As you're watching the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. And while you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. So what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Okay, everybody, we're back. Of course, our second segment is college football, of course, and of course, a lot of games in the Southeastern Conference and across the nation having implications in the college football playoff. Tennessee 7-2 on the year after basically a beatdown of the UConn Huskies, 59-6, in which Tennessee did something it had never done in its football history. That is scoop up 3 turnovers for scores, 2 interceptions in the second half for a score back-to-back, and a fumble, scoop and score in the first half in a 59-3 blowout win over UConn. And basically Jim Mora wasn't too happy with that. The UConn coaches really pretty had some sharp words to say to the coach afterwards. But Tennessee, of course, this week, they go to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Tigers of Missouri. And the twist is simple. Win out, you could conceivably play in the SEC championship game. They got Missouri, and then they got Georgia, and then they got Vanderbilt. 2 of those games are conceivably could have a good chance to win. The third one, Georgia, is a maybe.
It's one of those things. Tennessee is one of those teams that they have the tools, they have the talent, but sometimes you don't know what Tennessee team you're going to get when they take the field. The defense has been playing fairly well,
right?
And that's going to help us against Missouri, who has a very potent offense. I mean, Missouri is clicking on all cylinders.
They're 7-2 right now.
So there it's going to be a dogfight in Columbia. So you're going to see Tennessee go up there and try to really get some pressure on that quarterback and not let him get in your rhythm, because if he does, he's going to pick Tennessee to death, and it's going to be a long Saturday if he gets able to do that. Joe Milton has got to be on. I mean, the receivers got to be on.
He was on last week.
He was on last week, but that was UConn.
Yeah, well,
the again, level of competition is going to be significantly greater. Missouri doesn't have the greatest defense, but they definitely don't have the worst. So it's going to be a tough task for Tennessee, especially playing at Mizzou, to go and beat the Tigers in Columbia. And then the following week, Georgia
comes to Knoxville
at home. In Neyland, so that's going to help them having the home field advantage. And it just the way Tennessee is, and this, of course, I know I'm wishful thinking here, but just the way Tennessee is, it would not surprise me if they dropped the game against Missouri and then come right back the following week and beat Georgia.
Well, that wouldn't help him any, because let me tell you this is the situation he's going right now. Tennessee would have to win out. Georgia would have to lose to Ole Miss as well as to Tennessee in order for Tennessee to get into the SEC championship game. They lose to Missouri, that's it's over.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying about the SEC championship. I'm just saying just in general, it would not surprise me for Tennessee to really struggle against Missouri and then come back next week and really compete against Georgia and maybe beat them. I know it's wishful thinking. Yeah. Georgia is not as strong as they were in the last couple of years, though. They've struggled a little bit, especially with teams that they should have beat very handily. They've struggled with, so it's going to be a good game. I think Tennessee, will go down there. We'll go to Knoxville and having the home field advantage, that'll certainly help us. Much like it did last year when we played Alabama in Knoxville, and we know how that worked out. Yeah. So it's going to be a good game, and of course I'm going to the Vanderbilt game, so we better win that one. Yeah. My wife's finally agreed to go to a football game, and I picked Vanderbilt because I wanted to obviously give us a better shot of one that we would win that would actually be interesting to go to, the SEC implications, and that Vanderbilt was the only one left on the schedule that we could do that. So we're going to go up there on November 25th and see what happens there. Hopefully they come out with a victory. Ideally, Tennessee does win out. I mean, that would be wonderful, but that would, I still don't, even if they did win out, I still don't know with 2 losses if they'd be in the college playoff talk.
Well, the thing about it is that right now Tennessee's 13th in college football playoff, 13th. Missouri is 14th. Georgia is 2nd. Alabama is 8th. LSU is down to 19th in the college football playoffs. So technically, what could happen is you're going to have 12 teams chosen. Tennessee could win out, go to the SEC championship game, play Alabama, play respectively. Could lose to Alabama and still get in as an at-large. Remember, if you had the college football playoff 12-team deal last year, Tennessee would be in the college football playoffs. And it's just how you look at it. Tennessee, of course, hoping to win 10 games in their second time in 2 years. Tennessee, it was like it's a bit of a struggle. Certainly, Tennessee could have done better. They should have beaten Austin Peay by a huge margin. Should have beaten Alabama.
Should have beaten Florida.
Should have beaten Florida. And yet you got to remember this right now. Tennessee is still in a position for an at-large bid to the college football playoffs. If not, they'll probably get a nice, respectable bowl. Some saying is that some experts are picking them to play in the Gator Bowl against North Carolina.
That's what I saw. Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida. 13 years ago, you remember Tennessee supposedly had the game won against North Carolina in the Music City Bowl, but somebody had said, hey, they made it. They made a goof, made an error. They didn't have the 10-second runoff rule, and so they ended up tying the game. It took 2 overtimes, and North Carolina beat Tennessee in the. That happened to Tennessee twice that year with LSU. And then again with North Carolina. And if you remember when Derek Dooley was walking off the field, you could see him mouthing "not again." Because this is the second time in one season this had happened, that the time run out. There was too many men on the field. Of course, with LSU, there were too many defenders on the field, which gave them another chance because you can't lose the game on the defensive penalty.
No, you can't.
I can't stop the game on defensive penalty. But with the offensive, there was 15 men on the field.
15 men on the field
that year when North Carolina was taking off. So they did back them up for 10 yards, but he still drilled the field goal to go into overtime. But Tennessee's had their fair share of bad luck with games like that.
Of course, Alabama can basically clinch the SEC West with a win over Auburn to be the Iron Bowl. Auburn, of course, not looking good. Florida, well, I got to say this about Florida right now. There may be a coaching change in Gainesville at the end of the season. You lose to Arkansas at Gainesville in overtime, and that doesn't do much for your longevity at a major college football. Let's face some facts right now, is that Florida is a long ways from where it used to be.
Florida has struggled really since Urban Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got so used to success with Steve Spurrier, and then they got used to success with Urban Meyer in the Tebow era.
Yeah.
And that's down there. It's the same as it is here. We were spoiled by Philip Fulmer. We expected to win 10 games a season. Mm-hmm. We weren't satisfied with with a 7-3 or 4 or whatever. I mean, we wanted to play in a marquee bowl. We wanted to get wanted to beat our rivals. And sadly, for a Florida fan, Florida is in kind of the same situation that Tennessee's been in.
Oh.
Before Heupel, is bringing in coaches that were supposed to be the savior.
Yeah.
Of the program, and never really panned out. Dan Mullen didn't pan out. Napier's not panning out. I mean, and if you lose 3 games in Florida, they're calling for your head. They're ready to move on from you.
It's not a well-known fact. Is when Spurrier went off to coach the Washington Redskins and found out that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
College football coaches rarely can ever coach pro football, because pro football, the players are paid. The coach don't own them.
Mm-hmm.
They just work for you. And when he came back, he wanted to come back and coach back in Florida. And the athletic director, who him and him didn't get along, said, well, you could be one of the candidates. Not Steve Spurrier. He goes to South Carolina, wins that. You look at Will Muschamp. He goes to Florida, wins a few good seasons. Mm-hmm. Then he loses, and they fire him. He goes to South Carolina. He doesn't have much better luck there.
Right.
That tells you Ron Zook. You look at Ron Zook. Ron Zook was really the epitome of a bad choice as a head coach.
Yeah.
He sees Spurrier at Florida. What does he do? He loses 3 out of 4 to Tennessee. You just didn't do it, especially one at Gainesville,
Yeah.
which you didn't do, and as a result, Zook got canned, and he goes to Illinois where he has some luck,
Yeah.
But then that's a Big Ten team, that's nothing. So,
Right.
but the thing about it is now, let's talk about the Big Ten. Michigan apparently is in very serious trouble as the coaches have said, look, told Big Ten, you're going to have to do something about this now.
Yeah.
And apparently it may very well be that that Harbaugh may be suspended from the Big Ten. May say, hey, look, okay, you suspend him or fire him, one or the other. And I think Harbaugh's probably about ready to go back to the NFL.
Well, they've been talking about that for the past couple of years. That he's wanting to get back to the NFL to coach, and that's all fine and dandy. Whatever he wants to do. But the thing that bothers me, I'm not in any shape, form, or fashion justifying what Michigan did. But what does bother me is, good and well, that when these teams get busted for something like this,
Yeah.
every other team at some point has done it.
Yeah.
But they didn't get caught.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't look at Michigan as been like, I'm not going to label them cheaters,
Yeah.
because I know as a football fan that other teams have likely done this very same thing.
Yeah.
Even my beloved Tennessee
Yeah.
has probably done the same thing and didn't get caught. So I'm not going to label them cheaters, but obviously once you do get caught, there has got to be some sort of punishment, a swift punishment to deter the thought of doing that again for any other school. So you can't just sweep it under the rug. Now it's national news. Now it's on the national scale.
Yeah.
And it also has championship implications, because Michigan is poised to be in the playoff right now, and even potentially win the Big Ten. So with them being in that position and having been brought back to what they once were at one time, Michigan's back. They're a good team.
They're a good team.
And Harbaugh's done a great job there. And if this all pans out, we likely probably see why, because he knew what the other team was going to be doing. But still, there has to be some sort of accountability here. If you get caught, you have to have the accountability, and it just doesn't look good for Harbaugh right now and the Michigan Wolverines.
The Southwest Conference, the old Southwest Conference, for those who remember it, used to be called the most probation-riddled conference in the nation. Bear Bryant, when he came to Texas A&M, they slapped his team with probation. You know why? Because the basketball team did it, and so the football team pays the price as well. He had nothing to do with that, of course, but he goes out and he starts yelling, hey, look, every other team in the league does the same thing, and you know it. And half the coaches in the Southwest Conference cried foul. But you know what they said? He was right.
Mm-hmm.
He was right. That was Roy Bear Bryant, because in 1956. Texas A&M won the Southwest Conference title 2 years after he had gutted that program, which was 1-9. And those who he beat said Texas A&M ought to be in a Cotton Bowl to play for the conference pride. NCAA said no, they're on probation, not going to change. Of course, the year after that, they got off probation, lost a couple of games, ended up playing Tennessee in the Gator Bowl that year. But that tells you about how it is. You look at SMU. SMU was the ultimate bad boy in probation. You thought Miami of Florida was bad.
Yeah.
SMU took the thing, and the excuse was, and this is hilarious, the governor of Texas, who's on the board at SMU, he said there were no Bibles in the room. That's what he said. There were no Bibles in the room. He said we were going to phase out the payments, but that sort of thing, and they like paying like $5,000, $6,000 a pop. This weren't just like $50 or whatever under the table. This was $5,000, $6,000, and when some of those players didn't get their share of the money, they blew the whistle. Mm-hmm. So as a result, the NCAA put the death penalty on probation. Now, they weren't the first college team to go through that. Kentucky went through that in the 50s over the point shaving scandal, which they basically, the SEC and NCAA said nobody schedules them. They didn't have a basketball season. And they had a couple of other minor colleges in basketball and some other sports didn't play either because they got caught.
Yeah.
So let's write down. How do you go about punishing somebody fairly? There used to be where, you know, the NCAA said if a program got into trouble, no bowl, no TV appearances, you pay a big fine and all that. Then they changed the rules a couple of years ago. Otherwise, Tennessee would be looking at no bowl, no TV.
I still think, you know, depending upon the severity of the infraction, you know, I could still see them, you know, a 2 or 3 year bowl holdout.
Yeah, but are you a repeat offender?
Yeah.
Is this just a one-off? You look like Jeremy Pruitt. Now, you know, Jeremy Pruitt and his assistants were paying out money they should have been paying. It wasn't a pattern. It wasn't a habit. They didn't do this before, and the UT promptly handled the matter.
And I say that this is something too, that, you know, in the same regard, when you got, well, especially specifically when you have money exchanging hands. That's why I am just absolutely 100% against the NIL, because now you've legalized the ability to give money over the table.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not talking $5,000, $6,000, $7,000.
Yeah.
We're talking $2-point-something million NIL deals that kids are being made with these companies and these corporate sponsors and things like that to get them to come to a school.
Yeah.
And basically it's nothing different than what Jeremy Pruitt did at Tennessee.
Yeah,
and you know, putting a few $100s in a McDonald's bag and handing it around.
Well, that was Taco Bell.
But now, I mean, the NCAA is like, okay, we're going to let NIL come in, you know, and it with the same mind. And I'm not trying to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, but you know, the NCAA teams make a lot of money on jersey sales with the person's number on it, on merchandise with that, you know, the person's namesake on it. So, you know, I don't think that a company should be able to offer them money. I think that the college, aside from their education, somehow should keep up with what they sell and give those players a portion of what they sell. I think that would be an easier way to do that, and actually a more honest way to do that. Because you let's be honest, you're not going to have boosters and companies at the University of Memphis or the University of Tennessee Chattanooga that you're going to have in Knoxville or Gainesville or Tuscaloosa. You're not going to have the size, you know, of the market. So it's kind of unfair, really, for the smaller schools, in my opinion, because it's hard to compete with that. You got a kid that says, well, you know, I've narrowed my choices down to 5, and one of those is SMU.
Yeah.
One of those is Texas. You know, one of those is LSU. So you've got SMU's already behind because they just don't have the market that Texas and LSU have.
No, they don't.
SMU just what kid's going to choose to go somewhere to get $100,000, but you've got Texas that's waving $3 million at you. You know, obviously, an 18-year-old is going to look at that and say, well, I'd rather go to Texas. You know, it's $3 million.
Absolutely. You know, the thing about it is that the schools used to what they call laundry money. Basically, it's like $15, $20 a month. They would give it out. Bill Battle said in his book that every 2 weeks, the players would line up and they would, when the assistant coach would give them $7.50. You know, like have a bundle of stack of single bills and a stack of change, and they would just, you know, $7.50. Whether you needed it or not. You know, basically, it was because you could get your girlfriend to do your laundry for you and all that. But, you know, I said, but the thing about it is that, you know, Bear Bryant, when he was at Kentucky in the 1940s, he said he had a couple of players that, you know, that never owned a suit in their lives. They were so poor. And he said he knows how one of the players was walking around, you know, sort of rather self-consciously, and he looked down at his shoes. And his shoes were just tore all apart. He said, go down to a store downtown, pick out a couple of suits, pick out 4 pairs of shoes, get yourself dressed up. And he says, and one player said, well, I'll repay you. I said, no, you don't have to repay me. It's to make you feel good. And that's what it is. So he went down and he picked out one blue suit and one brown suit. So he had that suit and 4 pairs of shoes. He said because it's the first good shoes he had in his life.
Yeah.
So
and that's the case. You have a lot of these kids that are coming from nothing. I mean, you've got a lot of kids that are playing in. Well, actually, they're young men. They're not kids. They're young men that are playing in college right now that come from single parent homes that come from poverty. You look at the inner cities, like places like Florida and things like that. There are a lot of poverty-stricken neighborhoods, and all they have is football.
Yeah.
And the only prayer that you have to get out is football. And it's the same way. You've got some communities that are basketball driven. Same situation. So it's not just football, but this kid comes from a poverty-stricken environment, and a school wants him. He'll be better suited at one school, but this school over here offers him $2 million.
The rules about NCAA, sometimes they get a little too strict. For example, they have one football coach. He's driving on the road and he sees a player hitchhiking in the rain. He wants to stop, pick the kid up, but assistant coach says you can't do that. That's against NCAA regulations. The poor kid's wearing a hitchhiking in the rain, and the NCAA says you can't pick him up. He says, I'm picking him up anyway, and he gets him in his car, and then he reports it to the NCAA, so put us on probation. I will keep the kid from getting sick. And he said, I had another where they had a player who was on the 3rd string. He was on the practice squad. He couldn't afford to go home for the holidays, and he only had $15 between him and the New Year's to eat. The only thing legally the coach could do for him was put him on the traveling squad for the bowl game so he at least gets something to eat and a place to stay. That tells you how it is. Yeah, the NCAA needs to modify some of the rules to make it a little easier, but don't make it so easy that they get spoiled by it. I mean, you look at all those cars. Look at Hendon Hooker. He had an NIL deal with a dealership in Knoxville, and he got a brand new car out of it. So basically, he did have advertisements for the company, and he did it legal. So he as long as you do it within the rules specify the NCAA, I don't see a problem with that. However, they can't do alcohol, they can't do tobacco advertising. That is a no-no among the things. Okay, when we come back, we're going to talk a little about pro football and talk about college basketball as well, and anything basic that we need to hit our final segment of the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene as you're watching this on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. So what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. And while you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
Welcome to our final segment of the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene, and of course we're going to talk a little about about pro football. And of course, pro football well underway for about 2 months, and of course, a lot of teams vying for a spot in the Super Bowl. I want to get up on my high horse here for a minute, Bradley, if you don't mind. Oh yeah, I know you don't like it. Don't worry, I won't take too long. Let's talk about the Super Bowl. Now, when it started, it was not called the Super Bowl. It was called the AFL NFL Championship Game. And it was the only Super Bowl that was ever broadcast on all 3 networks at the same time back in 1967. And they didn't even sell out the stadium. Hard to believe. Now, today, it's all sell out. It's, it's all hype and all that. And that's what bothers me. When I watched it in the 1970s, you had an hour pregame, you had the game, you had a band play, a college marching band played at halftime, then you had the second half, then you had an hour post-game, and you went off the air. Now they have 6-7 hours of, why does the quarterback wear a green tie? What does he eat for breakfast? That sort of thing. And it drives me crazy. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then they have, like, the halftime shows. I always turn the halftime shows off. I don't particularly care for them.
Yeah, they used to be good, but they're not anymore.
And you can tell they're lip syncing a mile off. Anywhere.
Yeah.
And all that, and and really is that they get too much into the pregame hype. Why can't they just have an hour or 2 pregame, then do the game and be done with it?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I mean, I like it. I like a good game, but I don't, want to sit there. How much are tickets now to go see the Super Bowl? $500, $1,000 a pop.
$1,000 a pop. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And what they need to do is have it out in a place where there's snow falling. That's where they need to have it. That's where they need to have this.
What?
That's what football's all about.
No.
Come on.
I mean, I would love. I mean, you gotta tell you what. You look at teams like Buffalo and Green Bay. I mean, it is like it ain't even cold there. It's what my parents used to say. It was cold. It's cold up there in those places, and you got sitting in the stands. And you've got a foot of snow. You've had to dig your way out to get into your seat.
They had a guy in a snowblower one time came across the field and sort of cut across where the lines were, so that everybody would see whether, I don't know if it was legal or not, but that sure did help a little bit. But the thing about it is that Super Bowl. Well, the Super Bowl, in my opinion, is getting overrated. It's getting overblown, and I mean, people don't watch the Super Bowl anymore. They watch the commercials. And the commercials are probably, how much they pay? $1 million a pop to go do them?
For a 30-second to 45-second slot. Yeah, it's $3 and $4 million. It's crazy.
And, it tells you just how ridiculous. And now, of course, I mean, Super Bowl is the so-called American institution, like watching the World Series. I don't watch the World Series, by the way. I'm not one of those who watches it. I don't sit there and obsess over it, but I think it's kind of getting these big pro teams. Pro football. Who is the team most likely going to be going to the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, that's a tough one. Everybody, beginning of the season, it picked the Eagles and Chiefs. I mean, that's been kind of the go-to. Eagles are performing well this year. The Chiefs are, doing okay. Of course, they had a playoff scenario. They had the Dolphins, Steelers, Bengals. I mean, all those teams you think about are kind of middle-of-the-road teams right now. Dallas, I mean, they're doing well.
I like to see Detroit in the Super Bowl. They've never played.
The Lions. The Lions are the surprise team this year. Jared Goff is overperforming as a quarterback of the Lions, and he is doing very well. And I'm kind of partial to the Lions because Hendon Hooker's there. He's not playing. They're setting him out this year, so his leg can heal. But he was drafted by the Lions, signed by the Lions, so he is technically their second string backup, but he's not on the roster right now because of his knee. But next year he will be the backup quarterback.
Now you look at Josh Dobbs. Okay, they traded him from Arizona to Minnesota, and he made little notice. And what he does, he goes there and he plays brilliantly in Minnesota.
He played an outstanding game last week.
And this is a guy who's played with the Steelers,
the
Titans.
Didn't he have a small stint at Jacksonville?
Yeah, he did. And the thing about it is, the guy, I don't know why they would trade him since he does so well, but I guess they have their reasons. But Josh Dobbs, is one of those guys that is one of those guys that I would say is probably one of the best quarterbacks we ever had at Tennessee.
He didn't quite have the football mind that Peyton Manning had.
Yeah.
But he was better than Peyton. He was very mobile.
Yeah.
So that his wheels set him apart. But he made good decisions, and he was a good leader. He was an all-around good guy, and that's hard to find. But Dobbs is one of those guys that, most teams will look at him and say, he's our utility guy. He's going to step in when we have to have him. And you always want to have somebody like that on your team. But Dobbs is a natural leader.
Yeah.
He's more than proven that he can step into the role of QB1 and perform. Even he had never practiced, never took a snap.
Yeah.
With a Minnesota offense. And they said, when you get some reps in, he's like, no, that's for next week. And he went in and performed the way that he did, just by knowing, studying their playbook for a few days and just going and playing. That says a lot about somebody, really. But he's going to get plenty of reps with Minnesota. I think he's kind of won the crowd over up there.
Yeah.
But especially now that Kirk Cousins is out with a season-ending injury. Yeah. Josh Dobbs may be their go-to and may end up being the QB1 because Kirk Cousins very likely may not be back in Minnesota.
The thing about it is that there was a story that Joe Mayo told one time. He was when he's at Alabama. He said a reporter asked him rather sarcastically. I said, "What you take in college? Basket weaving?" He said, "No, I take journalism. It was easier." That's how Josh Dobbs is an aeronautical engineer. He's worked for NASA, and people. And what drove me crazy was some people called Josh Dobbs a thug. I said the man has a degree in aeronautical engiering. He's no thug.
He's far from a thug. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that sort of thing. The thing about it is that a lot of these players, if they don't get their college education right off when they're there the first time, usually come back after about 10 or 15 years and get it later because they realize they do need to have it and that sort of thing. Let's go to college basketball, shall we? College basketball, of course, played. Tennessee opens up the season 3-0. They won over fourth-ranked Michigan State in an exhibition game and then won over Tennessee Tech the other night. The Lady Vols won over, I think, Jacksonville State. So both teams are getting off to a good start. Tennessee in the top 10, no doubt, will be a little higher when the next polls come out. They're picking Tennessee to win the SEC title in basketball. Do you think that's possible for Tennessee to do that?
Well, sure, it's possible. Anything like that's possible. Tennessee, Coach Barnes has really got Tennessee back to where they need to be. He got them on the right direction. But the only thing is as bad as I hate to say it, but again, I'm a fan, but I'm also a realist. When you think of the SEC championship, you can't rule out teams like Kentucky.
Well, of course not. Kentucky's always has been a basketball game. The reason Bear Bryant left Kentucky was because of basketball, and that was the thing about it is that a lot of people at Kentucky said that was the biggest mistake that Kentucky ever made. They should have fired Rupp and not lied to Bryant. But the thing about it is about Kentucky basketball is that I go up in the state of Kentucky. You are not going to find one in any of the athletics shops in that sort. Tennessee shirts. They'll have every other SEC team, every other team in the nation. They will not have a Tennessee shirt. They said, they said simply. One guy said simply, if he put a Tennessee shirt in the window, said they'd burn his store down. That's how it was. I loved Chris Lofton. Chris Lofton was from Kentucky, and Kentucky and Louisville said, "You're not big enough to play for our school." Where does he go? Goes to Tennessee, and he just butt whips them.
He tore it up.
Yeah, and
then you've also got teams like Auburn.
Yeah.
Alabama played well last year. Arkansas is always a sleeper team. Florida, Vanderbilt. Basketball. College basketball's. It's a toss-up in the SEC right now. Tennessee probably has the edge because they have the talent and the coaches right now, and they are probably going to be, like you said, the favorite for the SEC championship. But you always got to look at those Kentucky games, and you've always got to look at those Alabama games, because Alabama beat us last year.
Yeah.
Kentucky beat us last year.
Yeah.
You know, Florida beat us last year. So, I mean, it's, you never know. You never know. Any given day, a team can lose or win, depending upon how the ball falls. And the Vols have, you know, if they play to the caliber that they should, you know, they should have a really good season. They really should, especially now that it's early, that they've, you know, shown that they can compete with the number 4 Michigan State. I mean, of course, it's exhibition, but still, I mean, the implication is, hey, we can compete and play at the level of one of the top 5 teams in the country, and that's huge for confidence, and that's where it all starts, really, on a basketball court, is having the confidence not only in yourself but in your team and your coaches.
You know, you had, of course, Tennessee plays in Thompson Bowling Arena, which is a real nice basketball arena. I've been in it. I've been to a couple of games there. But I also used to remember Stokely Athletic Center, and that was I'd really be honest, I prefer Stokely over Thompson Bowling, because really Stokely's like your seats are really over the action and that sort of thing. And of course, if you had a little bit of a height problem, then it was a little unnerving. But and you know, Stokely was a real good place to play, and of course Ray Mears made the Tennessee reputation and all that. But you know what always got me was that I read the book on Ray Mears, is that Bob Woodruff always seemed to have a way of wanting to knock Tennessee basketball down to a second level, because he didn't want to compete against Tennessee football. And that's that sort of thing. And you know, no one really knew why Woodruff was like that. But you know, he was old school and that sort of thing. And you know, is that the funny thing is that the story was that Ray Mears was trying to get a player from Florida named Steve Spurrier from Tennessee named Steve Spurrier. Steve Spurrier was a fantastic football and basketball player, and he said he knew if he could get, but time Tennessee was running single wing, and Bowden White, who was the coach, said, "Sure, we'll take you on as a punter." Steve Spurrier is a quarterback. Of course, he won the Heisman by kicking a field goal against Auburn. And so Mears' side, he's going to go to Wyatt and say, "Hey, look, we can get him for basketball too if you change your formation." And Wyatt's response was, "I don't change my formation for just one man." A couple months later, Wyatt was fired because that sort of thing. And that was it. Steve Sloan went to Alabama. There were 2 of the best quarterbacks in the state of Tennessee at the time, Spurrier and Sloan. And then he went to Alabama, and Spurrier went to Florida. Does that tell you something? That's, you know, coaches can do a lot of damage to a program.
Oh yeah, sure.
By you know, just not changing formations or doing something like that. You've seen so many boneheaded coaching plays.
Yeah, coaches can do that. Administrations can do that. I mean, especially if you've got a coach and administration on polar opposites of the line, it makes it very difficult for anything good to happen in that situation.
Yeah, you always get this sort of thing. You know, like Doug Dickey and Johnny Majors. I bring this up because you know, they were both strong-willed guys who wanted it done their way, and it ended up really is that Majors, because of his health and a number of things, and they mishandled the firing badly. They did. They later admitted to it. We mishandled it. We should have been a little more considerate. But you had to do what you had to do, I guess. But that sort of thing. But other than that, you know, you look at it this way right now. You got you got a stability in Tennessee program now that you don't have in basketball and football and baseball, softball. I mean, the programs there are growing, and that's a good thing here as well. Bradley, you got some final words to say before we decide to mosey along and get ready for Friday's game?
Yeah, one thing I will say, remind you to go to Hampton. It's a long drive, but I think it'll be worth the drive. Bledsoe County has a really good shot at beating the number 1 seed in Region 1. I mean, they're playing exceptionally well. High school basketball is about to be getting cranked up here pretty soon. A lot of things going on in the community. So definitely be involved. Get out there and show support to these kids. Whether or not you have a child or a family member playing or not, be a good sport and go in and support these guys and gals who are playing these sports, and cheer loud and wear your blue proudly and let them know you're behind them. You know, that's huge. You know, it's one thing we talked about the last 3 or 4 years is the community involvement with athletics. When the young people see that the community's behind them and the coaches see that the community's behind them, everything seems to work a lot better, and we've had been very fortunate here in this community. Our quarterback club does well. We have good support from the people around the school and in the town and the county, and even good support for our little league teams. By the way, our Pee-wees were our Harvest Bowl champions. They won Saturday against Sequatchie, and the Wee Peas come up short against Sequatchie. They were second in the conference, so that's good. And our junior cheerleaders won the cheer competition.
That's
for Little League. So that's they got a lot of young guys that are growing in knowledge and stature, and hopefully by the time they get to high school, they'll be just ready to hit the ground running. And it takes the community to do that. So get up there and support your Warriors. I know it's going to be a long drive, but I'm having to drive it. Mike's riding the bus. I'm not going to ride the bus. I'm going to drive on up there.
I'm one of those guys who prefer my comfort a little bit, like that. But like I said, it's about. I mean, I was asked. They asked me to ride on the bus, and that's what I'm going to do. So basically,
are you off your high horse now because you're talking about that Super Bowl?
I'm off my high horse right now.
The only person I know that's got a high horse is actually a Shetland pony.
Yeah, I tell you something right now. It beats riding a jackass anyway. But anyway, remember Friday morning the team will depart at 9:45 a.m. They will of course go by the middle school just down the hill. Then we'll go by the elementary school, do a loop around then to allow the students there to wish the Warriors luck. Then they'll be driving through the downtown area. So you businesses in town, give your employees a few minutes off to wave goodbye, wave signs, whatever, wish them luck, whatever, and then they will be at Hampton. That will be, of course, you go on Interstate 40 to Knoxville, then up to I-81 till you hit Johnson City, then hook a right down I-26 to Elizabethtown, and then take the exits off to Hampton, and that will not be too far. So basically, it's going to be a long trip, as the Warriors, of course, will try to win their 10th game of the season. And if you cannot go, you can listen to all the action here on WAT AM 1110 live with our game broadcast at 5:40 p.m. Not usually you'll say, well, play games at 7 o'clock. They do play the game at 7 o'clock, but that's Eastern time. So it's going to be 6 o'clock Central time here. 5:40 p.m. Eastern time with the kickoff at say for 6 p.m. Eastern time. I think the second round tickets is $8 to $10 to get in.
I believe it's 10.
So to believe it is 10, and you remember is that we want you to be on your best behavior and a sportsmanlike conduct. We do strongly recommend that you show the Hampton people how polite and how good we are and just how it is. And Bledsoe County, of course, will try to make some history Friday night. They have never gotten to the third round, and they're hoping to do that. And of course, the winner of this game will play the winner between York and Oneida in the third round. That will be down here if Bledsoe County wins Friday night. I believe that is Friday night. I'll check to make sure, but as far as I know, it is. We will have it down here against either York or Oneida. So again, Bledsoe and Hampton, the Bulldogs and the Warriors, first ever meeting between these two teams. Both teams 9-2. Both teams going to be hungry for a win, and they want to go to Chattanooga, and they're going to give their best shot on the field. So again, we encourage you to show up in force to cheer on the Warriors to victory here at Hampton, Tennessee, Friday night. Again, 5:40 p.m. pregame, 6 p.m. kickoff on WATA AM 1110, Pikeville, Tennessee. So Bradley, we're going to cut it here, and we're going to be back in 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll have some good news.
What do we always say before we leave? Go Blue, go Braves, and go Big Orange.
Well, the Braves aren't playing. Okay, you got to cut. You got to stop that.
Still support.
Yeah, still support. Anyway, farewell. We'll see you in 2 weeks as you're listening to the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative, Channel 18. Good day, everybody.
Brought to you by Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative in the Sequatchie Valley.